The sky was red with smoke, and the ground was cracked like dry skin. Wrecked ships, burnt metal, and torn flags lay scattered across the wasteland. The war was over, but the land still screamed in silence. Jace walked alone, his boots crunching. Over glass and ash, he was a human engineer, not a soldier. He had come only to salvage parts from the wreckage. His ship sat a few clicks away, hidden beneath a hill of black sand. He moved slowly, eyes scanning the battlefield. Most of the bodies had been cleared days ago, but something strange caught his eye, a smooth shape sticking out of the rubble. Half buried in broken rock was a silver escape pod, its surface cracked, blinking faint blue light. Jace's breath slowed. He stepped closer and knelt. The hatch was slightly open. He pulled his small scanner and tapped the side. A soft beep. Life detected. "Hello?" Jace called out. "Is anyone in there?" No answer, just a weak hiss of air escaping the pod. He reached for the manual override, grunted, and forced it open. The door creaked, then swung with a heavy thud. Inside, he saw her, a young alien woman. Her skin was a pale lavender, almost glowing in the low light. She had deep, sunken eyes and tangled silver hair. Her clothes, if they could be called, that were torn and barely holding on. She was curled up, shaking, breathing fast, his chest rising and falling like she'd run 1,000 miles. She looked up, her eyes locking with his. JC froze. So did she. Then suddenly, she stretched a trembling arm forward and cried out, "Don't go. Please, don't leave me here." He stepped in closer. "I'm not going anywhere." She grabbed the edge of his jacket with shaking fingers, eyes wide with terror. "They left me here," she whispered. "They said I was no longer useful." Didn't know what to say. She looked like she hadn't eaten in days. She tried to sit up but fell forward. He caught her before she hit the floor of the pod. Her body was weak, her legs barely working. Then she looked up at him again, tears in her glowing eyes, and said something that made him freeze. "Breed me, or let me die." The words hung in the air like a bomb. Jace blinked. "What?" He gritted her teeth, trying not to cry. "My people. They use females for one thing. If you can't make children, they throw you out. I escaped. But I'm broken. They say I'm broken." He looked at her closely. Her body was thin, bruised, and scarred. But it wasn't just her body that was hurt. Her soul was shattered. "Don't want to be used," she said, voice trembling. "But if I can't make life, I have no reason to live. That's how they raised us." Jace took a deep breath. He didn't move closer. He didn't touch her again. Instead, he knelt beside her and spoke calmly. "You're not broken. You're not trash. You're not going to die here." She frowned. "You're not taking me?" "No," he said. "I'm saving you." She stared at him in silence. He reached into his pack, pulled out a small water pouch, and held it to her lips. She drank fast, like she hadn't tasted clean water in days. Then, without asking for permission, he gently placed his arms under her legs and back. "What? What are you doing?" she asked, confused. "I'm getting you out of this tin can," Jace said softly. "You don't want me for breeding?" He looked her straight in the eyes. "No," he said. "I want you alive." She didn't speak. She just stared as tears slid silently down her cheeks. Jack carried her out of the pod and into the fading red light. His steps were slow but steady. The wind picked up behind them, brushing against her face like a soft hand. She closed her eyes and, for the first time in her life, she didn't feel like a tool. She felt like someone. As they moved across the battlefield, smoke curling around them, Jace whispered, "You're safe now, I promise." And for the first time, she believed someone. The cold inside Jace's ship was nothing compared to the chill inside her chest. She sat on the edge of the bunk, wrapped in a thermal blanket. Watching the human move around the control room, he didn't say much. Just offered water, some warm gel food, and space. The ship wasn't big. Salvage vessel, built more for hauling scrap than carrying people. Still, it was clean. No chains, no locked doors, no flickering control collars. Like the ones her people used, She touched the edge of the blanket with her fingers. It was soft, too soft. Her mind kept telling her this was a trick, another setup, another test. That soon he'd come back, eyes cold, voice cruel, asking her to earn her place, but he didn't. Jace was working silently, fixing the damaged navigation panel. Sparks flew from a wire, and he muttered something under his breath, then looked back and gave her a calm nod like she was just a person, not a thing. She watched him for a while before finally speaking. "You're different." Jace looked up from his work. "Different? How? You didn't touch me, even when I begged." He set his tool down and leaned on the console. "Because you weren't really asking, you were surviving." Her throat tightened. No one had ever said that. No one had ever cared to look beyond the words she was trained to say. "I thought humans were cruel. Violent," she said quietly. He chuckled. "We are, some of us. But most just want to be left alone." "Then why did you help me?" Jace looked at her for a moment. His eyes were tired, not weak, just tired of seeing pain. "'Cause you needed help." That was enough. She didn't know what to say. Her people had rules. Everything was calculated. Give something, you get something. No one gave freely. That was weakness. Jace went back to work, and silence filled the space again. But it wasn't uncomfortable this time. It was peaceful. Later, when she stood to explore the room, her legs wobbled. She leaned against the wall and gritted her teeth. Jace was beside her in seconds, offering support but not grabbing her. "Let me help," he said. She nodded, too tired to argue, as he guided her gently back to the bunk. A sharp beeping sound echoed from the console. Jace froze. His eyes narrowed and he rushed to the controls. "What is it?" she asked, already feeling the fear creep in. He didn't answer at first. His fingers flew across the panel. Then he exhaled slowly. "Someone's scanning this area," he said. "High energy pulse. Not human." Her heart sank. "It's them, the Cedar ship. They're looking for me." Jace looked over his shoulder. "What's a Cedar?" "It's what we call the breeder ship. They travel in deep space, collecting females like me. They think we're useful only for reproduction. If we resist, they break us. If we fail to give life, they throw us out." "And you escaped?" She nodded. "Barely. I stole a pod when they weren't watching." Jace muttered a curse under his breath. "If they find this ship, they'll kill you and take me back." His jaw clenched. "Not happening." She stared at him. "Why risk your life? You don't even know me." He glanced at her, then back at the screen. "I know enough." Scanner beeped again. Closer this time. Jace opened a side panel and pulled out an old stealth module. He slammed it into place, rerouted the power manually, and dimmed all external signals. The lights flickered. Then everything went dark, silent, like the ship had vanished. They sat there, side by side, in the quiet. Time passed slowly. She whispered, "They'll never stop, you know. They'll keep scanning, keep chasing." "Let them," Jace said. "We'll keep running." She looked at him then, really looked. There was no fear in his eyes, no lust, no lies. Just calm. Purpose. "You're strange," she said. He smiled. "You're the one who came out of a crash pod glowing and asking for babies." She laughed. It was the first time she'd laughed in years. It surprised her. It surprised him too. In that moment, something shifted. She wasn't just hiding anymore. She wasn't just surviving. She was safe. For the first time in her life, the silence around her didn't feel like a trap. It felt like breathing. But outside, in the deep cold of space, something was still. Watching. A red signal blinked faintly on a forgotten sensor. A message had been sent, and far away aboard a dark Cedar vessel, reply was already forming. They had found a trace, and they were coming. Asterisk. She sat at the edge of the engine room. Legs pulled close to her chest, watching the humans sleep. Jace was on the floor mat, arms crossed, his head leaning against a toolbox. He hadn't locked the door. He hadn't even turned on surveillance. It was like he trusted her. She didn't understand him. In her world, trust was currency. Didn't give it to traded it. But here he was, leaving himself vulnerable, sleeping next to an alien who had once begged him to breed her. A woman whose body had been seen as nothing but a factory. And yet, he never looked at her that way. Jace stirred, groaned, and opened his eyes. "You're up early," he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "I didn't sleep. You're safe here, you know?" She nodded. But safety was a word she wasn't used to believing. Jace stood and stretched. "I'm going to run a diagnostic. Want to help?" Her eyes widened. "Help? Yeah, you know their ships, right? The Cedar Tech." "I know their codes a little. Then that's more than I've got." He handed her a tool, and she took it slowly like it might shock her. Her hand still trembled slightly, but she moved to the console and sat beside him. For the next hour, she worked next to him, adjusting wires, translating data, patching code. She made 2 mistakes. Jace made 3, but he only laughed and said, "Guess we're even." She found herself smiling again, but then the signal came. A sharp pulse, 1 blip, then silence. Jace's head snapped up. "What is it?" she asked. He tapped the screen. "It's not a scan this time. It's a ping, a response." "From what?" He stared at the blinking dot. "From something nearby." Smile faded from her lips. "They've found us." Jace turned off the beacon and slid into the pilot's seat. "Then we move. No, if we fly, they'll track us faster. You'll burn our stealth shielding." "Then what do you suggest?" She hesitated, then said, "Hide again. But deeper. This time, deeper. There's a drift field not far from here. Broken ships, gravity debris. The Cedar ships don't go there. Too risky for their kind. But a small human ship could slip through." He nodded. "Coordinates." She moved to the panel and typed with her long fingers. "Here, 90 kilometers. We can make it if we don't boost." "Got it. Strap in." As the engines hummed quietly, she sat close beside him, not because she was scared, but because she wanted to. She didn't know why. She just did. The ship floated gently between clouds of wreckage-frozen hulls. Old cannons, lost escape pods drifting in silence. Once they passed a dead cruiser, her breath caught when she saw bodies still floating inside, sealed behind shattered glass. Some were female, her kind. Jace noticed her staring and whispered, "They won't get you. I won't let them." And he meant it. But behind them, far out of range, a small shadow crept between the wrecks. A cedar drone, silent. Watching it had found them. Later, while Jace was welding a coolant pipe, she sat alone in the small crew cabin. She stared at the reflection in the mirror. Her face had changed. Her cheeks weren't hollow anymore. Her eyes had more color. She looked alive. She didn't recognize herself. When Jace walked in, she turned quickly, hiding her thoughts. "I'm almost done with the shielding mod," he said. "We'll be hidden better next time. You keep fixing everything," she said. He shrugged. "It's what I do." She stood slowly and stepped toward him, her fingers curled nervously. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure, if I hadn't begged you to breed me that day, would you still have saved me?" He looked at her carefully. "I don't save people because of what they offer. I save them because they matter, even if they're broken." He stepped closer and gently touched her hand. "You're not broken. We're just treated wrong." Her eyes filled with tears. "I don't know what I am anymore." He leaned in, not to kiss her, but to speak softly. "You're free. That's what you are now." She looked at his face guard, calm, honest, and her breath caught. In all her life, no one had ever said that, not without wanting something in return. She wrapped her arms around him. It's not out of need, not from fear, but out of choice. And he held her, not like a tool, like a person, outside. The drone drifted closer, silent, recording, sending data back, and the Cedar ship moved, slowly, quietly, but it was coming. Asterisk, the ship floated quietly inside the drift field, surrounded by dead vessels in ghostly silence. From a distance, Jace's craft looked like another forgotten wreck, its power low and heat signatures faint. They had disabled nearly every system except the core. Life support and gravity stabilizer. But Jace wasn't resting. He checked sensor panels every hour, rescanned the area twice, and made quiet adjustments to their camouflage shield. He didn't say it out loud, but she knew he felt something coming. So did she. She stood behind him, watching the radar pulse. Nothing. Still. Empty. But her instincts told a different story. "You've been up for 2 cycles," she said, her voice soft. "You need to sleep." "I'll sleep when I'm sure we're not about to be boarded," he replied. She touched his shoulder. "You saved me. Let me keep watch now." Jace hesitated, then nodded. "Wake me if anything changes," she smiled. "I will." He lay on the mat, closed his eyes, and within minutes, his breathing slowed. She sat by the console, eyes on the scanner, ears tuned to the hum of the ship. For a while, everything stayed quiet. Then, just after the 4th scan cycle, something flickered. A blip. Tiny. Barely visible. She froze. Scanned again. The blip was gone. No alarms. No alert. But she knew what that flicker meant. She rushed to Jace and shook his arm. "Wake up. It's here." He jolted upright. "What?" "A ghost signal. It pinged us, then vanished." It moved to the panel, checked the logs, narrowed his eyes. "Encrypted cedar frequency. That's not a drone. It's a ship. How close?" Jace swallowed hard. Too close. Just then, a sharp sound echoed through the ship metal scraping against metal. It came from the outer hull. A soft, rhythmic clink. Clink, clink. They weren't alone anymore. Jace grabbed his pulse pistol and motioned for her to stay back. But she followed anyway, heart pounding. He moved to the main hatch, aimed the pistol, opened the inner camera. What they saw made her blood freeze. It wasn't a soldier. It was a lone floating in a thin EVA suit. But this one was different. He wasn't just looking for her. He was calling her name, over and over. Through the low-frequency channel, his voice echoed Lorona. "Loruna, I've come to take you home." She gasped and backed away. Jace turned sharply. "He knows you." She shook her head. "That's Commander Travix. I thought he was dead." Jace narrowed his eyes. "He doesn't look dead. He was the one who selected me for the breeding trials. He said I was rare, that I would make strong children." Jace clenched his jaw. "What does he want now? He doesn't care if I'm willing. They never did. If I'm still alive, I'm still useful." The cedar officer floated close too. The hatch, staring at the camera, most calm, almost kind. "You don't belong with the human, Lorona. Come back to your people. I promise you'll be treated with respect." Jace muted the "come." "You believe that?" "No," she said bitterly. "Respect means being chained with silk." Jace looked at her. "You trust me?" She nodded. "Then go to the engine room. Lock the bulkhead." "If I don't make it, no." She cut in. "If you go out, I go with you." Their eyes locked. "You're not my tool," he said. "You're not my shield. Let me protect you." Tears gathered in her eyes. "Then protect me with me. It's not without me." He sighed. "All right, but stay behind cover. We'll make our stand together." As they armed the defense panel, something strange happened. The outer hatch opened slowly in. Its own, Jace hadn't touched the controls. "They've overridden the airlock," he said. "They're in." From the shadows stepped Commander Travix, calm and smiling. No weapon, no armor. Just that same cold charm. Lorona stepped forward. Before Jace could stop her, "So," she said coldly, "you finally crawled out of your breeding cage." Travix gave a soft laugh. "Lorona, you were made for this. You were built to help us survive. Why throw that away? I'm not yours." He tilted his head. "You think this human will keep you? He's nothing. No power, no future. Just dust and rust." "He gave me something you never did," she said. "What's that?" She raised her chin. "Choice." Behind her, Jace activated the backup defense turret. Travex's eyes flicked toward it. "You'll both die for this." Travex whispered. Maybe, Jace replied, but you'll die first. The turret fired a warning shot, just enough to spark chaos. Travex lunged. Jace pulled Lerona behind him, and in the chaos of smoke, sparks, and alarms, the Cedar officer vanished into the dark corridors of the ship. He was inside, and the hunt had begun. Asterisk. The lights flickered across the narrow hallway, casting long shadows over the steel walls. Alarms pulsed softly in the background, but it was the silence between each pulse that made the air heavier. Jace moved fast, weapon drawn, eyes scanning every corner. Lerona followed, a blade in her hand, a slender silver shard she had hidden. In her boot, her hands trembled, not from fear of Travex, but from the weight of returning memories. This was the first time she had held a weapon for herself, not for orders, not for survival, but for her own choice. Travex was somewhere inside the ship. He was unarmed, but that didn't make him harmless. Check the maintenance duct, Jace, whispered. Lerona nodded and crouched low, sliding open a floor panel. Empty. Just wiring and coolant pipes. They moved on. Jace paused at every door, listened, then signaled. Lerona covered his back. They moved like they'd trained together for years. Each step was silent, but the tension grew thicker. Suddenly, a voice crackled through the ship's speaker system. I see you, Lerona, and I see what you've become. Jace froze. He tapped the internal comms. Travex's voice continued, calm and slow. You used to be proud. You were the top of your batch, passed every trial. You were born to lead the next generation. Shut it off, Jace muttered. I can't, Lerona whispered. He's in the core feed now. He's rewiring everything. Travex laughed through the system. You're with a human now. A weak, broken thing. What will that give you? A child with no purpose? A future with no honor? Jace didn't answer. He just kept moving. Lorena's jaw clenched. She yelled into the air, at least with him I have a choice. The speakers went quiet. Then the lights turned red and the ship's doors locked. One by one, thick steel bulkheads slammed down between rooms, cutting off corridors. Jace grabbed Leorna's hand and pulled her toward the engine bay. We need to reroute power, he said. If we can trap him near the rear thruster system, I can vent the room, but we'll only get one shot. They ran, breath sharp, boots pounding the steel floor. Behind them, a door hissed open. Travex stepped out of the shadows. Calm, confident, no weapon. You don't belong here, Lerona, he said. You're not like them. Never wanted to be like you, she snapped. He smiled. But you were. Once, Jace raised his pistol. One more word and I put a hole through that skull of yours. Travex turned to him slowly, eyes filled with something strange, not fear. It's not hate, something almost like pity. You're just a man, he said softly. You think saving her makes you special? She outlive you, forget you, and then she'll crawl back to us. Lerona stepped in front of Jace. I will never go back, she said. Travex's eyes darkened. Then you'll die here. He lunged. JAC fired. The shot hit Travex in the shoulder, spinning him back. But the alien was fast. He rolled behind a support beam and vanished. Again, smoke hissed from a leaking pipe. The lights buzzed. We can't win this in a straight fight, Jace said. We split up. You reroute the vent system. I'll draw him in. No, she said, gripping his arm. If anyone should face, it meets me. Jace hesitated. I'm not your shield either, she said gently. You've taught me that, but I'm not going to let him own my fear. Finally nodded. You trap him. I'll open the vent door when you signal. She nodded and ran, vanishing. Into the lower crawl space, Jace turned toward the corridor, pistol raised. Travex, he shouted. Come on, you want her? You go through me. A cold laugh echoed from behind a vent. I was hoping you'd say that. The two collided in the hall. Jace fired again, grazing Travex's side. Travex countered, elbow to the ribs. Knee to the gut. They slammed into the wall, fists landing fast and hard. Jace wasn't a soldier, but he had something Travex didn't rage. It's not just for Lerona, but for every soul thrown away like her. Every life broken by power. He punched Travex across the jaw, Just as a distant alarm beeped twice. Laruna's signal, Jace kicked Trevex into the vent room and slammed the door. He limped to the console, hand shaking, and hit the release. A loud whoosh. Pressure dropped, and the room exploded, outward debris.
Steam.
And the Cedar commander with it. The scream vanished into vacuum. Silence followed. Larona reappeared beside him, her blade still in hand, breathing hard. "It's done," he said. She didn't answer. She just dropped the blade and wrapped her arms around him. Not out of fear, out of freedom. But somewhere, deep inside the Cedar ship's data core, a copy of Trevex's final signal blinked. Red dot sent dot delivered dot opened. They had friends, and they were not far behind. Asterisk, the ship was quiet again, but it wasn't Pycet, was the quiet before a storm. Leorona sat beside Jace, patching up his bruised side, her fingers soft but focused. He didn't complain, even when the alcohol burned. "You should have let me take him," she said quietly. Jace gave a half smile. "You did. I just helped with the door." She let out a small breath that almost sounded like a laugh, but her eyes didn't join in. Something heavy sat behind them now. Something Jace hadn't seen before, even when she was starving, even when she begged for life. He finally asked, "What is it?" Larona didn't look at him. Trevex wasn't alone. Shh. Jace sat up straighter. "There's more." She nodded. "Always more. I was part of Project Loom, the last generation bred to carry the seed code, a genetic chain they needed to restart their failing race. They made us strong, fast, intelligent. But they made a mistake. What kind of mistake? They didn't expect emotion or independence. They made me too human." Jace looked at her, stunned. "So I'm half," she said. "Half Cedar, half something else. A test subject. My mother was a defector from a lost colony. They erased her. Tried to erase me too until they realized I was fertile." He blinked. "He said they threw you out because you couldn't." Shh, she looked away. "I lied." Jace said nothing, letting the silence hold space for her truth. "They called me useless because I resisted," she continued. "I refused to be matched, refused to follow their pairings. I didn't want to carry a future that wasn't mine." "Chip," whispered. "You wanted choice." She looked at him. "I still do." Just then, the ship's proximity alarm buzzed. Not once, not twice. 5 short. Pulses spread wide. Jace turned to the console and checked the scans. His eyes narrowed. 5 Cedar. Ships had entered the drift field. 5. "All of them coming this way," he muttered. Larona stood slowly, her face calm now. They tracked Trevex's last signal. Jace pulled up the weapon systems. "I don't have enough firepower to hold them off. We can't fight that many. We can run," he offered. "There's a warp corridor to clicks out." "I divert power to the jump drive," she touched his hand, stopping him. "They won't stop coming," she said. "Even if we jump now, they'll follow. You saved me. But if we keep running, you'll die for it. Eventually." "So what do you want to do?" he asked. She didn't speak for a long time. Then she walked to the rear chamber of the ship. One they hadn't opened since she arrived. The containment vault. Jace followed her. "What are you doing?" She opened a small cryo-locker and pulled out a black metal case with glowing blue edges. "What is that?" "The key to making them." "Back off." He looked at her. She looked at him. "This is the original seed code file," she said. "I stole it when I escaped." "You mean the formula to restart their bloodline?" She nodded. "Without this, their program dies. Their race becomes sterile." Jace stepped back, stunned. "And you've had this the whole time?" "Was going to destroy it," she whispered. "But now, you think you can use it to bargain?" "I think I can end this," she said. "But I have to give them something they want more than me." Jace crossed his arms. "So what's the plan?" Lorena smiled, and it wasn't a sad smile. It was something stronger. "I'm going to talk to them. Alone." Jace's voice sharpened. "No, I have to. They'll kill you the second you step out. Not if I have leverage." She held up the glowing case, pulsed softly like a heartbeat. I go to them. Tell them the code dies with me unless they back off. No more chases, no more breeding ships. They get a future only if they let me go. Jace clenched his fists. And what if they lie? Then I destroy it right in front of them. He stepped forward, voice low. Lorena, you don't owe them anything. Let's burn it. Let's run. She touched his face. And keep running forever. You deserve better. You gave me freedom. Let me give you peace. Jace said nothing, just stared. At her, with eyes filled with something stronger than words, she turned toward the airlock.jace moved beside her. If you're going out there, I'm going to. She smiled. Then we make the trade together. Outside, the cedar ship slowed, forming a wall of steel and shadow. One opened a channel. Return the subject, a voice said, cold and commanding, or be erased. Looked at Lirona. She stepped forward. I am not your subject, she said, but I have what you want. She lifted the case. Back off, or this burns, and you all die with your line. The voice hesitated, then responded. We're listening. The cedar flagship hovered like a god over the broken wrecks of the driftfield. Its hull was black, smooth, and veined with red heat lines pulsing slowly. Smaller ships flanked it like sharks waiting for the signal to strike. Jace and Loruna stood just outside their small craft on the ruined hull of an ancient cruiser. A force field shimmered around them, holding in air. One misstep, one flicker in power, and space would swallow them whole. Across the wreck field, a light flared on the cedar flagship. They've opened a comlink, Jace said, hand on his holstered pistol. Lorona nodded and stepped forward. A voice crackled through the field deep, calm and artificial. This is the Council of Seed. Confirm. You hold the loom code. I do, Lorena said. She lifted the small black case, letting its blue glow reflect in her silver eyes. The last copy. The only complete map of your genetic future. The voice replied, return it, and return yourself. You were never authorized to leave. I wasn't property, she said. You just trained me to believe I was. You were critical to our survival. Then listen closely, she said. You're not getting both. The silence that followed was long. Lorona pressed a button. The case began to warm. One more. Press, and it would fry every file inside. I want your word, she continued. You leave me, you leave the human. Leave anyone like me who escaped. No more chases. No more breeding programs. Or this, she lifted the glowing box higher, goes into a star. A pause, then a second voice entered, softer, older. Leona, it said. Do you know who I am? She froze. That voice. She remembered it from the cold labs. From the dreams they made her forget. Mother, she whispered. JAC had turned, startled. The voice continued. You were not just created, my child. You were born. You were the last true hybrid. I hid my blood. In you, Lirena's knees almost gave way. You're alive. For now, the voice said. I became part of the system to protect you. I buried the code. I waited, and now you brought it here. Tears slipped down her cheek. All I ever wanted was freedom, Lorona said. Not war, not breeding. You can end it, her mother said. You hold the one future they cannot manufacture, Jace whispered. It's not just the code they want. It's you, Lirana turned to him. Her voice shook. They want me to lead. Jace stepped forward. Then give them something better, a new rule. She smiled, then turned back to the flagship. I'll give you the code, she said, holding it high, but only under 3 conditions. State them, the council replied. 1, she said, I am not returning to your ship. This transmission is our last contact. 2, every female left in your breeding systems will be freed. You'll return them to their home planets. No experiments, no more cages. 3, she took a deep breath. You will rewrite your own future using this code, but never again by force. No more programs, no more selection. You will let your people choose. The voice paused, then said, agreed. Jace blinked. That's it? The voice added. But if you are lying, we will erase you and everything you've touched. Lorena pressed the code release. A beam of blue light shot toward the flagship, a compressed stream of data. Now it's yours, she said, and we are done. The cedar ships began to rise. One by one, they pulled away. The flagship hovered a second longer, then turned slowly and vanished into the black. She fell to her knees, breath shaking, body trembling. It's over, she whispered. Jayak rushed forward, caught her, held her tight. You did it. You actually did it. I didn't want power, she said, but I used it for once. I used it for myself. He held her face between his hands. What do we do now? He asked. She looked at him. We live somewhere quiet, somewhere warm and baby. She blinked. What? Smiled nervously. You said you were fertile. I've never been good at running alone. She stared at him, then laughed. A real, full laugh that echoed across the ship's hull. You want to raise a half-human, half-hybrid child with a girl you found in a wrecked pod? I didn't just find you, he said. You found me too, she kissed him. Later, as they floated away from the wreck field, heading toward a quiet blue planet far beyond the reach of war, Lirana placed a hand gently over her belly. I feel something, she said softly. Jace looked at her, confused. Already? She whispered. Hope. The end asterisk.